I think you might be pretty amazed when we tell you the following, because a convicted terrorist is standing for election in local elections in Birmingham in May.
Yes, he's called Shabid Butt. He was convicted in Yemen in 1999 for conspiring to bomb the British consulate there and an Anglican church and a hotel.
He claims to have been wrongly convicted. Of course he was, saying the charges were not terrorism-related and he was forced into signing a confession.
Well, here he is at the Aston Villa ground ranting about how Muslims aren't pacifists when Jewish fans, of course, were banned from coming from Maccabi Tel Aviv.
You need to be earning halal rizq, and you need to be in that gym, doing that MMA, doing that boxing, lifting those weights, strengthening yourselves up, so that if anyone comes into your face, remember, Muslims are not pacifists. If somebody comes into your face, you knock his teeth out. That's my message to them.
If he has any teeth.
A charmer. Knock his teeth out. What a charmer. Well, let's talk to Tim Dieppe, who's the author and head of public policy at Christian Concern. As a Christian, do you forgive this man for inciting violence? Knock his teeth out?
Well, I would forgive him, but I'm not sure he's repentant, because obviously last year he said that. That's not very long ago. He also said, let Birmingham not be desecrated by these vermin and filth, referring to the Israeli Maccabi fans. He's also been interviewed and referred to the Quranic verse which says, do not take Jews and Christians as your friends in a favourable way. Another interview recently, he was introduced as a former mujahid, which means a former jihadist. So, you know, it's clear where his loyalties lie, let's say. And this is an interesting situation where we've got a kind of sectarian politics rising up. The group called the Independent Candidates Alliance, I gather, is fielding 20 candidates across Birmingham. His particular ward has got about 60% Pakistani Muslims, so he's with a reasonable chance of getting in there. And we're just seeing this growth. We saw it last year, was it 2 years ago now, in the general election. This group called the Muslim Vote, sponsoring different candidates. 5 new independent candidates got in. They claimed that 50 that they sponsored or that they endorsed were qualified. They've also endorsed the Green Party for the Galton and the Manchester by-election coming up in February as well. So that's an activist group coming in there. And this sectarian politics is growing. You know, we've already got Tower Hamlets Council controlled by an Islamic political party called Aspire, which is an exclusively Bangladeshi Muslim party. So we're seeing this increase, and this is kind of like the next step, in my view, the kind of Islamization of Britain, seeing Islam growing in political influence, direct political influence, getting people elected and all this kind of thing. It's clearly a deliberate strategy, and this is symptomatic of that.
Tim, do you think that democracy as we know it can survive this kind of sectarianism? Because certainly in the past, when Britain was fairly monocultural, whoever won an election, left, right, whichever party, we all assumed and had the understanding that that person would work in the interests of all of their constituents for the entirety of the British nation, whether or not we agreed with how they're doing this. But this is something completely different. Someone standing explicitly for a different culture, something that isn't British, and somebody that in the past has been convicted for something very anti-British.
Well, it is a problem for democracy. Demographics affects democracy, and we're starting to see this now, and like I said, for the first time. And I think, you know, we see it like in African nations, it's all tribal politics. Here it's becoming similar to that, not tribal, but kind of almost religious, Muslim or not, in effect. So I think it will affect our democracy, and it will challenge our democracy. And the only way is to cut immigration and stop this growth of a separate culture or subcultures. You know, this is the fruit of multiculturalism. You get sort of multi-political culturalism as well, multi-politics as well, and it just divides the country along these ways. It doesn't create unity; it creates disunity, really, across the country, and disagreement. And that's the problem that we're going to see in the coming elections.
Tim, very briefly, as a Democrat, would you stop this man standing?
I don't know. I don't think the law can do that. But if it was down to me, I'd change the law so that he couldn't. I think having some of the things that he said in particular, as well as he's been convicted of violent offences as well as this terrorism offence, I would try and change the law to stop that happening, yes. Yeah.
There's certainly security angle to this as well, isn't there? Well, GB News has approached for comment, and we're not yet to get a response. But, yeah, we'll bring you the latest.
No, this is a statement from him, actually, so we've got to read this out.
OK.
My actual charge is being a member of an armed gang and conspiring to commit violence, not terrorism as such. Oh, right. Nobody actually died. Nothing happened at all.
He also added that the gang were tortured and forced into signing confessions, but he does regret his links to violence.
That was just told to Birmingham Live. Here's the weather.
We're living in a time of
what feels like pretty significant social change. And it makes us question things that we've even taken for granted for decades. And one of those at the moment that people are wondering about is actually money. Is the money in your bank account safe? Should you be investing elsewhere? Are we looking at a potential global crash? What will it mean for your savings? Is there a way that you could be using your money that might be outside of government control even? Well, TallyMoney is potentially one solution. So I'm delighted to say that I'm joined today by the CEO and founder of TallyMoney, Cameron Parry. What is TallyMoney?
Well, at TallyMoney, you basically get gold you can spend. So we give people an individual account in their name, everyday account. They get a sort code, an account number. They use that account just like they would pounds from their bank, but it's milligrams of gold that we brand as Tally.
Okay. Why would you do that, though? What is the benefit to the customer instead of just having a normal pound sterling account?
Gold's performance against the pound is above 11% per annum over the last 25 years on average. But we still need money in our daily lives, and we have savings. We know that it's good common sense and prudent to save up for things, not just live in credit. You know, whether it's a holiday or a rainy day, your retirement planning, you need to have money in your life, basically, that you can rely on, that's dependable, that nobody meddles with, that nobody can weaponise against you, which is another element of government control when it's the government currency, which we could talk about another time. And it should be pretty simple and straightforward, and that's what we deliver at Tally. And really, we just want people to feel safe and happy with their money. There was a time when the bigger your bank balance, the more confident you felt. Now it's like, I need to do something with it. I can't leave it there. In Tally, you can.
Okay, brilliant. Cameron Parry from TallyMoney, thank you so much.
Thank you, Bev.
I mean, it's a deadly serious matter, and as you've alluded to, he's been saying that time is running out, President Trump, but the Iranians have also said that their finger is on the trigger. So there are bravado words coming from both sides. The situation has been heating up dramatically now over the course of the past several days, and we're reaching the denouement, if you like, of this situation potentially in the next couple of days. The USS Abraham Lincoln has been moving into the area. It started off from the South China Seas around the Philippines and moved towards the Arabian Sea. But we could see a multifaceted action by America if they decide to move against Iran. And Iran also has its options. But if we look at the American options first, they don't remain only the military option, the kinetic option. They also have cyber options. We've seen in the past how cyber attacks can, to use the current phrase, discombobulate military and civilian equipment that is necessary for functioning of society. We can switch off electricity supplies, you can disconnect water supplies, and potable water is one of those things that is in great scarcity in Iran at the moment, and it's helped create this unrest, the lack of fresh running water in Iran. The economic attack is also possible. So there are already sanctions against Iran, but we might start to see secondary sanctions, which is when a country says not only do we ban trade ourselves, but we ban others from trading, otherwise they'll suffer consequences. Trump has spoken about that. There are also other options, which include, of course, the option of an informational style attack. Now, this is where we don't get any information coming really from the street level in Iran because communications have been cut, the internet has been severed, and so on. If the Americans choose to, they may be able to aid ordinary protesters, perhaps by the use of satellite phones dropped in or things of that sort, to get the message across to the West of how they're being treated, how they're being terrorized, how they're being tortured, and how their people are being killed in the thousands, potentially in the tens of thousands. So these are three options that might go hand in hand with a military kinetic strike. And there are huge resources now descending in the region.
But let's not forget, though, the reason why Donald Trump is going into Iran. He would say that the way the Iranians are treating their own people, murdering people on the streets, he said help is on its way. So I guess this is the help that's on its way. So for all the criticisms that people make of him in the language that he's using, he is kind of on a mission to, he says, to stop the killing.
That's right, Nana. And some sources have been talking about up to 40,000 protesters who have been killed in Iran in this latest period of unrest. And over the past 47 years, that, despite there having been several protests and unrests over the years that have killed thousands of people, this may be the worst, the most savage, barbaric attack on its own people, killing tens of thousands of people and torturing to death and so on.
Yeah.
And so rescuing the people of Iran from their own theocratic leaders is one of the priorities. But Iran also has some options. One of the things that it can do, it has multiple short-range missiles on its coast that can strike naval assets in the Persian Gulf and in the Arabian Sea. Iran could choose to close the Straits of Hormuz, a very narrow isthmus.
How susceptible is Israel in all of this?
Israel definitely, I think, will come under attack if Iran is attacked, because they see Israel as a little Satan, as they sometimes call it. Their top priority, frankly, over the last... But it's part of the problem. Iran's top priority, or at least its leaders' top priority over the last 47 years, has not been its own people, but actually how they can attack Israel and how they can harm Israel. So Israel, I think, is likely to come under attack too.
Well, I think the other option they could do is perhaps stop killing their own people, and then maybe it'll end.
Michael, fascinating listening to you. Thank you very much.